Hello, this is Catherine Williamson, and this is Asamara, my love letter to West Cumbria, the magnificent people and places that make and define this place. I have a truly extraordinary guest for you today, a story that I think is pretty incomparable on Asamara. Am I making you feel nervous yet, Julieanne Mitchell?
Yes, I'm very nervous.
There's nothing like a big build-up, is there?
Yeah.
You were. Well, we are going to get into your story, but I think that for all of our listeners, there's a courage that you've had to live with, life circumstances, and we know what character's all about with how we deal with the cards that were dealt, and you've had some pretty tricky ones to deal with. So tell us just a little bit about you. West Cumbria, aren't you?
Yes, I am. So I'm 48 years old. I live in Whitehaven. I was brought up in Whitehaven with my mum and dad and my family and my brother and everything. I'm very much a Whitehaven girl. I moved to the northeast for a few years, but I relocated back around 10 years ago.
Did you feel that lure back again then?
I did, yes. I did come back because my dad took ill, unfortunately, but I am really pleased to be back in Whitehaven.
And I heard it said that the ambition for Whitehaven is it's going to be Whitby by the sea.
Oh, is that what they said?
The Whitby of the West.
Oh, right, okay. With the edge and everything, I can see that happening.
Yes, well, I think it's a very dynamic time in Whitehaven at the moment. I think we've got a highly motivated MP, but that the edge building itself is very much, it's edgy, isn't it? It is a divided opinion, but there it is, and it's just recently opened.
It has. I haven't got there yet, but I'm planning to go there with friends shortly.
Yeah, no, as I say, I'm not a native at all. I've adopted this county and this particular part of West Cumbria, but my experiences are where people's stories and experiences are played out here. They just seem to be amplified. I said if I was looking out in my garden in Leamington Spa, I'd see a pigeon. If I looked out in my garden in Whitehaven, I'd see a pterodactyl. Everything's, you know what I mean? Everything is more heightened. And your life experiences, what you've been through, be it the good or be it, there's no motorway to West Cumbria. It's that bit. You have to press on for nearly another hour, don't you, after you've been past Windermere. You seek it out primarily if you're working for Sellafield or you're about to do the coast to coast and you're going to set off from St. Bees. But a lot of people have to be much more intentional to make it to the Wild West, don't they?
They do. And it's a beautiful place. And like I said, we've got lots of people around in the area, and I've listened to some of the podcasts of other people that's been on, and it's just a wonderful place to be.
I think that's what is remarkable. Some of the issues, the higher levels of suicide, higher levels of domestic violence, COVID hit you harder than many other places. Yet the solutions, the hope, the mobilisation of goodwill, that is also, it's like if you're looking at yin and yang, there's always a balance between the light and the dark. And if there's a problem, there's people highly motivated to find a solution around here.
There is. There's lots of fantastic charitable services around, and I'm involved in the charity sector as well. It's just a fantastic community, and everybody pulls together.
Yeah, no, I felt that. I've remarkably felt that, and I think that's why it stood out so much in my mind. If you start a new job, and for the first 2 or 3 weeks you have this real objectivity, you see things much more clearly, and then very quickly you become assimilated into a place. And I think part of the fact that I've come from outside in gives me a bit more clarity. Yeah. And I'm able to say and be encouraging, because there is this endemic humility of play it small, don't be big-headed. And I find it quite challenging when you're trying to put West Cumbria up and the people of West Cumbria up, that what the people of West Cumbria have been trained to do is play it down. And how are we going to raise the profile unless people are able to do the good and talk about the good things?
But that's what you're doing.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, because I can. Because I'm not burdened by the idea that I've got to, play a small game. My husband does go, you can't. I said, I'm not born from around here. I can
say whatever I want.
And I'm only trying to seek to amplify the very positive aspects of the people I've met as well. So we're going to pretty much go straight into your questions today, aren't we? Because
That's fine,
it is, as I understand, very much the questions will reveal all. So let's go into that first question, that moment that changed the trajectory of your life. What was that for you, Julieanne?
It was being diagnosed with HIV. Probably around about 22, 23 years ago. Seems a lifetime ago. So I was a young girl. And it was devastating at the time.
So you get used to saying, when I was diagnosed with HIV, not many people are used to hearing anybody say, when I was diagnosed with HIV. Most of my mates would be expecting you to say, I'm perimenopausal.
I am that as well.
They would expect to hear that.
Yeah.
They would expect to hear, I'm on Manjaro. But what they're not expecting in a sentence is when I was diagnosed with HIV. And that is why when I was Mark Goodwin, Gobsmacked episode, it would be...
I think it's just gone out. I was
17, 17. Mark said, you've got to speak to Julieanne Mitchell. And we have made it happen.
Thank you,
today
Mark.
is the day. So we're talking a couple of decades ago.
So it was about 23 years ago. So I'll go from the beginning, shall I? How it came about? Or would you like...
Well, no, I think the question is, and I wonder, as anybody who's listening to this now, they've heard you make that statement.
Yeah.
And they'll all be trying to work out the backstory that would lead a woman to be saying in 23 years ago, and then you might go down the route of thinking blood transfusion. That would be a way. I think maybe that predates even your time.
It does, yeah.
But people will be trying to box you in.
Yeah. And
how did that happen to you?
Put us into a group or judgment, because it's very stigmatising disease still today for a lot of people living with HIV. But all I had unprotected sex with a partner. And that's how I caught HIV.
And the point that you made to me, and we really must explore that. So I turned 60 this year, and one of the reasons, part of my wider world is I'm a seroptomist. So I'm very
fantastic.
Yeah, I'm very much interested in subjects pertinent to raising the lives of women and girls. But what happened to you, we will absolutely explore that. But one of the things you said to me that's really stayed with me is the demographic of people that are now getting HIV.
Yeah. So, right across the UK and the world, but especially in Cumbria as well. The demographic now of people that are coming through. So, apart from obviously living with HIV, I also work for a support service called Blue Sky Trust, who's the North Eastern Cumbria. And I'm also the treasurer of a volunteer group that educates and breaks down stigma and discrimination. And that group, again, is across the North Eastern Cumbria, and we're called Eyes Open. So I get involved in new diagnoses coming through as well with Blue Sky Trust. And what we've seen in the 80s, when people remember all the AIDS tombstones and the awful campaign that there was, probably, I should have Googled this, I'm going to say mid-80s maybe. That was...
Well, I was in Africa, I was in Kenya when the Live Aid was going out, and that was something around 84, that sort of time.
Yeah.
So as I remember that wave of awareness, that was
terrifying.
That was definitely coming in the 80s, wasn't it?
So in the 80s, so we had all that, and it was 99% a gay man's disease, or what we like to say is men who have sex with men. But over the years and the decades, and people always say, well, I didn't think women could get HIV. And it's like, well, how can't, do you know what I mean? There was lots of women in the 80s, but I think it was overseen by the gay community. And what's happened is there was gay men having sex with men, and then the bisexual men passing the virus on into the women. And now, especially across Cumbria, it's the heterosexual community that we're seeing huge rises of diagnoses and late diagnoses as well. So at Blue Sky Trust, obviously I support people, so I get people that come through the service, and we get a lot of male and female who are straight heterosexuals. So it's not really the gay community, because there's been so much work, Catherine, done in the gay community to educate.
They've got their house in order, haven't they?
They have. So if you go down to Manchester to Canal Street, there's HIV posters everywhere. There's condoms in buckets for people. But you don't get that in Yellow Well here, do you? Or in the Edge. Maybe you should start a campaign to get condoms around. But people are just haven't been educated, and we've seen a huge increase, especially women. And I put that down to as well all the fantastic dating apps. Now, I'm advocate for have a happy sex life. Everybody should have a good sex life if that's what you choose to have, but be careful. And I think with the apps like Tinders and Plenty of Fish, sex is a fantastic thing and it can empower a woman, can't it? And you should be having sex if that's what you want to do. But I think women don't think, when you were younger like me, all I was told was, don't get pregnant. Get on that pill and this, that and the other. I wasn't educated around sexual health or HIV. And I think then when you get older, so women in their 40s, when they're dating in that, or if the marriages broke down and they're starting and they're going on Plenty of Fish, or just going out into a bar to meet somebody, if you're going through the menopause, you're just like, oh, well, I can't get pregnant. It's that pregnancy thing again. This is me and my thoughts. So I think this is why there's a lot more women having great sex, which is fantastic, but they just think, well, I can't get pregnant because I'm on the pill, or I can't get pregnant because I'm perimenopause or menopausal or through the menopause. And this is where we're picking up new diagnoses, and obviously not just HIV, other STDs and STIs as well.
Because the STI and that's gone through the roof as well, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. Yeah.
I do find that quite a fascinating thing, that this liberation. So you've been, you get anywhere from 40 onwards, and you think you've got rid of all that fertility years. That's all over.
Yeah.
And and then suddenly you're not even vigilant to the idea that.
And people just don't think, for one, to test, or two, to protect yourselves. And I didn't naively.
Yes.
And it happens.
And I think that's a really very important part of this interview today is that bit of public service. I mean, I know we're going to pick over your life to some greater or lesser degree, but the fact that you've been so visible and vocal is because you must be constantly trying to advocate for, protect and take care of yourself and be more educated about situations.
It's self-care. So we go and get our mammograms, we go and get our smears, and we go all these things, but people don't think of protecting yourself and going to the sexual health clinic. So across Cumbria, we've got fantastic sexual health clinics here in Whitehaven, we've got one in Workington, we've got in Carlisle. So if anybody takes this from today, not just the women that's listening, but the men as well, get yourself checked out.
Do you naturally end up getting checked out for HIV unless you specifically go?
Nope.
No. There's no particular part of your life where you would be naturally screened for it?
No. Probably if you're donating blood.
Right. And presumably, would it be part of the pregnancy screening as well?
It's part of pregnancy, but I think that's about it. So with me, it took 2 years for me to have a diagnosis, and that was 20 odd years ago, and we still hear that now.
So I have flown you off towards women on Tinder.
I've gone off on
yeah, but that was my fault. We're going to get into there, but I think it was just being struck. Ladies, do not think when you're swiping whatever way that you're protected
left and right,
because HIV is rising strong,
and it's still very much, because people say, "Oh, I didn't think there was such a thing as HIV anymore. I thought that was just a gay thing." It's very, very much, but the stigma and the discrimination still attached to it. Still a long way to go. Obviously, that's what I'm doing today, to try and educate. And this is what HIV looks like. This is me. But there's a lot of self-stigma as well, internally, and it's heartbreaking. And that's why I use my story to try and educate and normalise it. Like we've done so much with mental health, haven't we? It's okay to talk and all that type of stuff, and the cancer stuff, and it's okay to talk about HIV and stigma and discrimination. So yeah.
And I've just suddenly, just because I talk about right on for women and make sure women are protected, but of course, if women are sexually active meeting men, it's equally, it's passed both ways, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, for anybody out there, it's just, do not think that's something that was consigned to the 3 decades ago and just happened to have a bit of a resurgence with It's a Sin when it was on the telly a couple of years ago. Yeah. And that was it, back and
it went through the roof.
Did it?
Yeah.
Again, because of that TV show.
Mm-hmm.
I could imagine. So, people will be dying to know, how did it happen to you? You say it was heterosexual.
Yeah.
And you've been HIV for 23...
About 23 years since I've been diagnosed, so I know I'd had it for a few years before then.
Really?
Yeah.
And did you have any clue?
No, but I was extremely ill.
Really?
So I was going backwards and forwards to my GP. Lots of things were happening to me. My skin, my hair was falling out, my skin was really bad. I had terrible ulcers. My stomach would swell and all these weird things. Backwards and forwards to the GP. This was a GP in North Tyneside because I was living in Whitley Bay at the time. Backwards and forwards, they were like, Julieanne, we know there's something wrong with you. We don't know what's wrong with you. We know it's a blood thing. They thought it was leukemia at one point. And it was just awful. And it took 2 years. And I was so ill, I couldn't get out of bed, Catherine. It was so bad. And my head fell out. And it was just dreadful. Felt really unwell. And then one day, I was that ill, a doctor decided to give me a HIV test.
And there it was.
Yeah.
And it took that long for them to
2
think
years.
that might be possible.
And when I went back to my GP, he turned on and said, I'm really sorry, Julieanne. I just didn't think to test you for HIV because you're not a gay man.
There we go. And of course, that's where you
got
got
still today.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
But that's the medical profession need to.
Yeah. So we're doing loads in GP surgeries as well. So if anybody GPs are listening across Whitehaven and Cumbria, I'm more than happy to come in and educate your team because HIV presents similar to lots of other illnesses.
So
And there's misdiagnoses. Well, just like a pneumonia and things like that, if you've got a bad chest or here's some antibiotics, but it could be a HIV-related chest infection. Rashes. You get a rash sometimes. I didn't get a rash, but that's quite a common thing. But if you go to the doctors, they'll go, oh, you got a rash, or we'll give you some ointment and some antibiotics.
Topical cream, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got that imagery that comes from shows like It's a Sin and from those haunting images in the 80s of Lady Di going over to the the wards and such like. But there is... It is, you say, it's a blood disorder, HIV.
So, yeah, HIV is in your blood. So for people that's listening, if they don't know what it is, I'll try and explain a little bit. So HIV is a virus. Mm-hmm. What happens is it's got to get in your bloodstream. So you can get it through injecting sharing needles and things like that. But mainly it's unprotected sex, straight into your blood system. And what happens is the virus gets into your blood and I tried to do this. I know we're on a radio, so I'm trying to explain.
We are being videoed.
And it's being videoed as well. What happens is the virus increases, right, over a number of years. So you can have HIV, apparently, for 10 to 15 years and feeling well.
Really?
So what happens is, for those that can't see, it's like a bit of thermometer. The virus is going up and up and up. And all this time, you're more infectious. And the virus goes up in copies. But the longer you've got it, the more infectious, and it gets even more infectious. And what happens, it gets to a certain level and it starts attacking your immune system. And then on the other side, like a thermometer going down, your immune system's going down and down and down, and the virus is going up and up and up. And all this time, if you're undiagnosed, you're becoming increasingly ill, but also you're extremely infectious to other people.
So you're able to give it to other people.
Pass it on, yeah.
Yeah, because the load of virus in your body.
The viral load, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going up and up and up, attacking your immune system and your little soldiers that are trying to fight and you sweats. I had night sweats. There was all these awful things happening, just so bad that your immune system like that. So any illness you can be really, really poorly with or worse, late stages. And we do know that many people have died. We don't like to use the word AIDS these days because it's a stigma in word, even though, you know what I mean. So it's late stages HIV, but we've lost so many people. But what happens is if you go to a sexual health clinic or whatever and you're diagnosed with HIV, if your viral load's up here and your immune system's here or even here, or, do you know what I mean? That you put on medication straight away, fantastic medications. I take 2 tablets a day and I go to the hospital once a year now. That's all I go for an hour. But what happens is you go on your meds and your viral load's up here, the top of the thermometer in there, and the virus starts coming down with the meds. It gives your immune system time to recover. Mm-hmm. And that's it. But what we do know now, which is absolutely fantastic, if you've took your medication as prescribed, like I have, and you've got what we call an undetectable viral load, there's a campaign, if people want to look up, or if we can maybe get it out on some socials, it's called U equals U. That means undetectable equals untransmittable. So that means that you've got an undetectable viral load because you're on your meds and you cannot transmit HIV. So now, my husband hates me saying this, by the way. Obviously, he's not here, so he's fine, but he'll probably hear this. But I have loads of unprotected sex with my husband and it's never been passed on. How amazing is that?
Yeah.
And I think it's a huge thing. So in the 80s, they had all these tombstones, Catherine. I wish they would just follow up with a huge national campaign. So that's why Terence Higgins Trust does a lot. And Gareth Thomas, do you know Gareth Thomas?
The rugby player.
Yeah, he does loads of campaigns if people wants to follow him. So anyways, that was my story. I was diagnosed. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent now. I told you I would do this, didn't I? So I was diagnosed extremely ill. And within about 3 months, I was back to normal. My viral load was undetectable, so I couldn't pass it on. And I have never had any illnesses since then related to HIV.
Blimey.
And I'm fit and healthy.
So you said it was part of a heterosexual relationship.
It was, yeah.
And were you, I almost feel like as an antidote to the word HIV, were you courting, Julieanne?
Yes.
Not a one-night stand?
It wasn't a one-night stand. And hey, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what people do, and this, that and the other. So we've just got to put that out there.
With me courting.
It's totally fine. But I was in a relationship with somebody. Yeah.
And did they? No.
I'm not quite sure. We were together a short while. And then that was it. But I haven't really explored or had conversations around it, because at the end of the day, by the time me and that guy ended our relationship, it was then a couple of 2 or 3 years on, and I'd moved on into another relationship and this, that and the other, and then I become ill. Mm-hmm. So, but it's always a bit irrelevant, because I always just think, well, it's happened. And that's it. So I'm not aware of what his background story was, to be fair. But I was in a relationship with him. Young girl as well, naive and things like that.
But all of us have had a chapter. Very few people in our lives have not had a naive phase or a gullible phase or taking daft risk phase. But you paid a pretty, I'm going to say a pretty high price.
Yeah. I know where you come from.
Yeah.
It was devastating.
It
was devastating at the time.
We are living, in some regards, where I know we're not anywhere near as enlightened as we could be, but we're more enlightened than we were. And people still, as soon as you said to me, HIV, I still have that part of me, because I'm living through the 80s and seeing grannies. I remember there was grannies on Zimmer frames queuing for an HIV test because they'd had an indiscretion in 1922.
Yeah, I know.
You know, we were terrified. We were literally catapulted into sheer fear, a bit like... I've got sort of those COVID feelings, because I remember...
It was very mimicky of COVID as well, but obviously... Yeah.
So, well, it's still today a subject that most people would not want anybody else to know about them.
So people living with HIV, obviously, because I support people, we have a complete mix. We've got some people like me that'll talk openly, but there's very, very few people. But at Blue Sky Trust, we do have a lot of positive living speakers, which is fantastic. That's what we call them, and they'll go out and speak. But a lot of people don't tell a soul, and that breaks my heart. Can you imagine the mental health of somebody living with such a big thing, even though it can be medicated and treated and you can be kept well, but not being able to tell a partner, a wife or a husband? Some people don't tell a partner. Do you know what I mean? Or the children just got no support. And I think that's why I do what I do. I call myself like a bit of a HIV mouthpiece of... to get it out there, because I'm talking to you now, but I know all the other people that I'm also talking to and supporting, that I know they'll be listening to this and they're championing me on, but in a silent way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because they're like, I wish I could do that, but I couldn't do that. It's like, it's fine.
Yeah.
But I think with me, when I was younger and I was diagnosed, obviously I wasn't like this. But as you know, Catherine, you get a little bit older, like, so I'm 48, 49 next birthday. With that comes a bit of a, not a confidence thing, because I wouldn't say it's a confidence thing, but a little bit like, I'm not bothered what people think.
Yeah, no.
And I don't mean that in a nasty way. Of course I bother what people think, but I do you know what I mean? Like, I've had awful things said to me over the years, and if that's said to me now, I'm a bit more thick-skinned to it, and I'm like, that's fine, but let me educate you. And I can do it in that way. When I was younger, I was all a little bit like, oh, I can't tell anybody and this, that and the other. But there's lots of complications with it as well, like new relationships, having babies, girls coming, testing positive in pregnancy. So we've got to put them through the support networks there. But I get a lot of, Julieanne, I've met somebody, how do I tell them? Because can you imagine disclosing that to somebody?
Yeah, gosh.
But I just use my lived experience.
Because I think it's that politics of the ostrich, isn't it? If I don't go and get tested, I'll never know that I was or caused any problems for other people. But of course, as soon as you are diagnosed, then you do have to get into letting other people know, don't you? And you have to become more responsible with that knowledge.
So the law as such, if you've got a viral load, you can't have unprotected sex because it can be a criminal case if you're found out. But if you've got an undetectable viral load, you do not have to disclose.
Okay.
And that's up to the person because you're not putting them at risk of anything, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah. But that means you've got to be in control, knowing the situation.
I just made that decision not to do that. So I became single about, I was in a long time relationship for a lot of years when I was in the Northeast. When I come back home, can you imagine coming back to Whitehaven, as much as I love Whitehaven, thinking, oh my word, I'm coming back to Whitehaven and I want to date and I want to meet somebody and I'm HIV positive. It was a bit like that. But I made the decision to just disclose to people. And yeah, anyways, I'm married now. It's my wedding anniversary today, actually. So 3 years. So yeah.
So basically, there is a whole lot of life beyond the diagnosis.
Huge. It was life-changing and devastating. But HIV, nobody wants HIV, and if I could take it away, obviously medically, I would. But it's changed my life for such a better purpose.
Mm.
Like I'm sitting here talking to you, I wouldn't have met you today, would I?
No, well, we
wouldn't have met of all the people that I'm supporting or supported and friendships I've made, and yeah, it's made me the person who I am.
And I think that's that classic aspect of any form of true personal growth and true transformation does not come through easy comfort. It comes through searing life events that cause you to have to line up with how you're going to face it, that left and right moment about how you go forward with it. That's right. So you might be saying you're a bit, menopausal in terms of the sweats, but as you sit and present to me, you look fit and well and glorious and full of energy and life. Yeah. And every day that you get up and conquer your life, you're quashing the narrative of how your life is supposed to play out, aren't you? Because you don't look like, sound like, or appear like anything that people have possibly built up in their minds as to how you should be.
Because people think HIV is like what people look like towards the end of diagnoses and late diagnoses and things like that, and it's really not the case. And if you're on your medication, you're fit and healthy. Like I was out this morning and I run 5 miles this morning at stupid o'clock before work and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? You're super fit and healthy. And the NHS is fantastic.
Wonderful. And it's wonderful to hear that this area's got a tremendous provision in terms of the sexual health support because, I prime from Middle England as well as the West Cumbrian. I think we're pretty good, but I do know that the appointments and the system, it is some parts of the country where they do have a hell of a backlog, don't they?
Yeah, there is. That's the thing. But across Cumbria and probably where you're from, that area, there'll be sexual health clinics that you can make appointments to and stuff. And HIV test is either a finger prick, literally told there and then.
Really?
That terrifies me.
Is it literally
a blood spot? Most places do a blood spot, but some people do the bloods and you get sent away. And then you get a text to say everything's fine. But if you get a phone call, there's something showed up. But when they do HIV tests as well, they do STDs and STIs and click for all the other lovely STDs and STIs as well. But at the HIV one, a lot of people just does a finger.
I didn't realise you
could have brought one and you could have done one.
Wow. Do you know what? Because I don't know. Donate blood.
I think HIV is covered though. I think you must be tested.
Yeah, well, you certainly. I always feel with blood donations. By the time you filled all the questions in, it's amazing. Anybody can get through.
Because it's.
But I always do the test, and I pretty much fail it. And I've got a 50-50 success rate because it sort of hovers on the surface, and it's the point where they're looking at me as if to say, "We think we're going to have to give you a pint," and then I have to have another finger pricked because I normally get through on the second test, which is slightly more refined. And that is just like, badung, isn't it? And as simple as that, that would tell you.
Yeah.
No, that is, but in a sense, you're out of your misery quick. The waiting for the phone call
can you imagine how nervous, anxious you would be sitting for that? See, with me, when they said about giving me a HIV test, I didn't think that would have come back. To be honest, I was relieved because I knew there was something seriously wrong with me.
Okay.
And if it had been left,
yeah,
the outcome would have been a lot worse.
So I'm sure we've touched on some of this already in the second question, which is from this dark place, where do we mine gold from dark places?
Yeah.
What has been the positives that you've mined from this then?
Being able to be talking to people like you, being on stage. I've done a lot of different things, doing talks, educating, and being the mouthpiece for everybody else living with HIV who feel like they can't talk about it to other people. I think that's been the key thing for me. Well, and helping them people as well through difficult times as well.
But you've trotted off things there that say, yep. But some people say they prefer to speak at their own funeral, be in the box than speak at a funeral.
Oh, yeah.
Public speaking, you've got to tip into a whole new skill set of how do you project. You're putting yourself up for scrutiny, putting HIV to one side.
Yeah.
Are you entertaining? Are you interesting? You've got to, and it's this idea that when it's clear that you are going to be a spokesperson for the community that you best understand the plight of, and you become an ambassador for change, you are then tipped into all sorts of these situations.
People asking you to do things.
Well, you've got to put yourself together. I mean, you do a tremendous amount of fundraising as well. You end up having to do the challenges for fundraising as well.
Yeah. Well, I've got my own business called Together We Can Fundraising, and we're a fundraising consultancy. So I've got a team of us, there's 6 of us. So we fundraise not just for HIV, but for the homeless hostels around here, for domestic violence, lots of charities, community hubs and that around here. So that's what I do as well, full time. So I'm always fundraising and doing stuff like that. But obviously, my fundraiser where I raise money for is for Eyes Open and Blue Sky Trust.
So
so I like it when I get asked to do public things. Like today, I was a bit nervous. Then when I start talking, I'm just
well, it is a bit daunting.
But it is a bit daunting because you're talking about yourself. So if I'm on stage, so I'm used to being on stage a little because I'm in a band, so I do a bit of singing and stuff with a band called DeLorean. We're all local with 3 lads. So I'm used to being on stage. But when you're doing something like that, it's different when you're talking about yourself.
Well, that's a performance.
And that's a performance where this is a little bit like, and you don't know what people are going to ask. But I'm very much open book, and I've gone into schools and I've gone into universities. That goes down well because you can see they want to ask you questions, and younger people don't really think about what they're going to ask you.
There's not much editing going on.
There's not much, so you think, what are they going to ask me? And you can see them looking, and then they'll go, can I ask something? Oh, no, and they're like that. And then they ask it, and I like that because I think, because you really want to know that, and I'm pleased you ask that no matter what it is. I've been asked lots of things.
So it's, from this point onwards, it's created an entire profession for you. It's put you. It's literally shaped your life.
Yeah.
Once you came topside of the physical symptoms, it's really created.
And I've had amazing support from my family and my best friends and my husband for them to be happy that I do that, because it is a bit of a thing. And it was probably when I first came out, sounds the wrong thing, but talking about it, there'll be a lot of people talking about it. Because you do, don't you? And it's a little bit of gossip. And I totally get it. So I had to say to my family, this is what I'm doing. And they were like, really?
Well, they're all swept into it, aren't they?
Well, it is, yeah. But now they're immensely proud, and I always stuff out on social media. So it's World AIDS Day, 1st of December, for this. And so I'll be doing loads on that day on social media and everything. But that's what we're to do, to keep it there, because HIV isn't just one day a year for World AIDS Day. For people, it's every day of their lives.
I think you said a little bit of gossip. Now, I still think even in more enlightened times and anywhere in the world, but particularly around here, when you say, well, I just happen to be HIV positive, I still think that would forge a little bit more than a bit of gossip.
Oh, yeah.
It would still have that factor, because we're still living with the 80s. And then we had it rebooted through COVID. that brought out some real, quite tenacious divide on people's opinions. So there was a lot of that washing around.
Yeah. Yeah, but I hope people are talking about it.
Yeah,
and then I
because
hope
that's
people
good.
are saying, "Well, do you know about U equals U?" And do you know about whatever? Do you know what I mean? Or where you can go and get a HIV test. So if people are talking about it,
that's awareness raising.
My job's getting done.
Great. So third question.
Okay.
So typically this one is a world event
Yeah.
or a moment in time where you can absolutely remember where you were when you heard it. What is it for you?
Princess Diana dying. There's a few, obviously the COVID thing and things like that. But I really thought about this yesterday, and Princess Diana dying. So my background, I'm a singer as well, and like I said before, I'm in a band. But that's what I did professionally for a lot of years. And that's what took me over to the northeast, where I was diagnosed with HIV and everything. So I'd been gigging, and I was still here. I think I must have been about 19 or 20 when I must have been gigging somewhere, I don't know where. And I don't know about you. Do you know when you're doing these type of things, you're like adrenaline? I'm an adrenaline person. So when I've done a gig, even now, even though I can be absolutely tired, I can't sleep. So I was doing a gig, and I think it was either a Friday or Saturday night, it must have been. And I was living in Egremont at the time, and I come home from the gig, early hours, made a cup of tea, sat down, and I turned the news on, and Princess Diana had died.
I can tell you exactly it was August the 31st, 1997
Was
that she
it?
died, because that day, so I think I want to say it's a Saturday, but only because in the morning my husband ran in to tell me, and we were having a barbecue that afternoon, and all we did was watch the telly.
Yeah.
I think it was
Huge.
it was just an absolutely unfolding event. But of course, her involvement in destigmatising HIV.
Well, this is the thing, and that's why I wanted to say at the time, like, I love the royal family, but I was really, like, Princess Diana, she was beautiful, and everybody, what she stood for and how she was trying to change people's perception on the royal family in general. But then fast forward a few years, when I'm diagnosed with HIV, she was the key person, before obviously she passed away, to try and destigmatise, because she was the first person that went into a HIV ward where people were unfortunately dying and was hugging people, and she was told not to.
Yeah.
Because you might catch it from hugging. And she just didn't care.
She was a real, when I say mixed bag,
Yeah.
I mean, there was lots of complexity, of course. She's an eternally fascinating woman. Courageous. Oh, my word. Formidable
and
degrees.
I think she did things.
Yeah. She
knew that she probably shouldn't have been doing as a royal, but she did it anyway.
Yeah.
So that night really, and like you say, just for days and days and days, wasn't it? Just glued to the news. So that's my my memory.
Well, I think particularly resonant for the events of that day and the aftermath, but the fact that she was, I won't say the patron saint of HIV, but what I am saying is she was up there, her work with Elton John and, you know, some of the big names that are associated with HIV fundraising. Yeah, and the likes of such a human being, you know, for our lifetime, you know, she was one of those creatures. Of course, there was, you know, when you're a single name, Diana, Cher, Lulu, you know, Madonna.
Everybody knows who you're talking about, don't they?
Yes, she was. And of course, she never grew old on us. She'll always remain.
Shame.
She will always remain, you know, beautiful and in that sort of, like a sort of beautiful creature captured amber.
I think if she'd still been alive, she'd have been a huge supporter continuous of HIV. She would have been probably leading, I don't know, some sort of things. Do you know what I mean? Some
Absolutely.
Campaigns and things like that.
And
because her sons have gone on to do stuff. Prince Harry does a lot of HIV work under cover. Not undercover, but under
the radar.
Doing lots of stuff. Yeah.
So the fourth question, you're encouraged to talk either about a book or a play or a quote, or we can do a combination of, or something that you'd like to leave people with today that's been a source of inspiration to you.
Yeah, it should really be a song to say that I'm a singer, but it isn't. It's a quote. And it's something that I've always from a teenager, and it's like everything happens for a reason. And that's my quote, my saying. Be it something good, something bad, something ugly or whatever, I am a strong believer that there's a time and a place for things that happen, and everything does happen for a reason. And I feel, especially with me being diagnosed with HIV, even though obviously I had unprotected sex, but that happened for a reason for me probably to be doing what I do now. And I do think people's paths are laid out for them in things that they go on to do.
I say it to my children. I say it to anybody really, but when people feel that they've made a mistake, or they've maybe left a job that they shouldn't have, left a partner they shouldn't have had, the bottom line is I always say you are absolutely divinely where you're meant to be. And you will have to make this decision work in some way. And it's better to see it in terms of that there is a reason for it that may not yet be revealed.
But it will be later down the line.
Yeah.
And then you look back and go, that's why that happened.
I do find, because in my wider life, I do executive coaching, and I have to be reminded that I'm not there to play God in people's lives. I haven't got a periscope that tells me what's come down the corner and around the corner. I always say, look, the situation you find yourself, you don't know whether the decision to leave a job or to stay in a job, you don't know where this is leading you to. And it is a quote I've used on here before, but it still is relevant, that that concept that if you had an ambition to as a metaphor, bake a beautiful cake, and you put the cake in the oven, and then you come back to it 20 odd minutes later and it's flat as a pancake. The idea is you could still make it into a fantastic trifle.
Yes,
and you can re-resource, can't you? If it's not what you expected it to turn out by, like, there is still an opportunity to repurpose it to something greater than you would imagine now.
Yeah.
And people are on their paths. You are on your path. And I know I just said, well, even though I had unprotected sex, as if, it had.
I didn't do anything wrong.
No,
who has unprotected sex? That's everybody. who has sex?
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can absolutely take the accountability piece of. Well, I did have unprotected sex, but if you look at that in the grand scheme of things,
it's not a wrong thing. It's not a bad thing.
But it's just
unlucky.
It's unlucky. That's it, isn't it?
It is unlucky. Yeah.
I sat through 10 games of bingo yesterday with Gary McKee, calling the numbers for he's raising money for Minnie to get to see the gorillas.
Yeah.
And somebody said, well, what's the technique in this game? And I said, I cannot believe that this is a game that's based on anything other than luck.
Yeah.
It's numbers are those numbers. What's the skill other than keeping up with the caller?
Yeah.
Sometimes in life you just need to luck or being unlucky. But as you're saying, it turned it around for you. Yeah. It's put you and put your life in and put some framework around your life, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I take my medication and I do what I do, and I've been extremely lucky that it hasn't consumed me like some people it can. With diagnosis, some people can really be consumed and the mental health can be impacted, which then unfolds lots of other things. And it can be really difficult for people to get out of that. And I know that, so I think I've been lucky there as well to have some sort of resilience, I suppose.
Yeah.
Resilience must be the thing where at the time I was like, right, this isn't great. But then, do you know what I mean? And then you move on and you get this resilience, and I just,
Well, yes, there was the girl that you were born to be, and the experiences you've had and how knocked sideways. Because some people might just decide they're never going to come out the house again. They're never going to have another relationship. They're never going to trust another human being.
I know a lot of people like that with HIV, and that's a thing. So when I'm supporting them, and it's just like, and I can't say to them, look, I do, but you sometimes just feel like, they could have so much more but some people are just not like that, are they, because of whatever. And it's just complex. and just other things and other layers and HIV, and do you know what I mean? So it can be really, really difficult. So yeah, I've been very, very fortunate and very lucky.
Well, I do feel that how you have chosen to see your circumstances has a massive amount to do with everything you draw towards you, because you've been incredibly pragmatic about it. And you're doing everything you can to lighten the load of others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's shame, isn't it?
It's a shame. It's a stigma.
Yeah. It's a very random story, but I remember being at university and I did an elective in Malaysia, and part of it, they treated me like a medical student, even though I wasn't doing a degree. I was doing a degree in nutrition. I was meant to be measuring malnutrition, but I ended up in a leprosy colony.
Oh, right, okay.
I know. And by the time you actually ended up in a leprosy colony, people hid in society as long as possible, because once they went in, they would never come out. Whereas if you'd gone in earlier and got a diagnosis, you could have had a chance, because once your fingers have gone, that's it. But I remember the fact that the train that pulled into the station didn't actually stop. The stigma was such that when you got off at that station to go up to the colony, it kept on moving and you had to jump off it.
Really?
It was a really strange thing. And you walked up this hill and then into the colony. But once you were in there, it was the most amazing amount of... it was just an incredible place. But I was absolutely overawed by the experience. And I was there and I said, I don't remember having any injections for leprosy. And they said, don't worry, you'd have to sleep with a leper for nearly a year to catch it. It's a very low contagious. It's a build-up challenge, but once disease, but only contracted by human beings and this three-spined armadillo or something. So the drug testing was really, so that it was an unpopular illness, biblical unpopular leprosy, with a very, very niche amount of drug testing. I remember being in there going, and I was sort of shaking my head the whole way through it. But it was one of those times when I left it, I genuinely felt changed by the experience.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
It was really, but it wasn't that I went into sort of people wearing, like you see it in films where they're there in rags and, there was hope in that place but there was no hope of coming out.
Yeah.
That was it. You were in there and you were staying in there. So people avoided trying to get sent there in the first place. Random, I know. So Julieanne, as we conclude today, if you were to give just that one bit of extra advice or one bit of insight or just something as people just are closing out with us today, what would you say?
Just thank you very much for listening. And if you can take anything from this today, please talk to other people about HIV. Be kind, because you just don't know what people are going on behind closed doors. Remember the U equals U thing to pass on, so undetectable equals untransmittable. And if you feel like you need to, please pop yourself along for a HIV test.
It's going to be, as we know now, very fast, quick. And you don't have to sit.
And then that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And for many people, it will be not as bad as they feared. And for some people, their entire life is now up for deciding how they're going to go forward, but with huge more infrastructure and support, because people like you are out there raising awareness.
And the prognosis and everything, it's a normal life expectancy and everything. And
it is not the death sentence.
And you can have babies and you can breastfeed. Hopefully shortly they'll be changing that around, because at the moment they're still saying about not breastfeeding, but we've done trials where women have breastfed and the HIV hasn't been passed on if they've got an undetectable viral load. So there's the advancements is absolutely fantastic, and we've got all the other drugs, the PEP and the PrEP. Maybe that's another podcast for another day. That's to stop you getting HIV if you're in a high risk group.
Mm-hmm.
So there's medications there, and the PrEP is pre-exposure to it, and then the PEP afterwards, I think I've got it the right way around, maybe not, is like the morning after pill type thing. So if you think you've been at risk of the virus, you can take a pill afterwards to stop you catching HIV. So there's loads of medical stuff that's going on with it.
So I hear a very hopeful story. Hope-filled, because there's more research, there's more insight. The stigma is still holding, but it is being brought into the light by people like yourself, and you're creating communities around it, fundraising and raising awareness, and going about living your life in a perfectly delightful way, Julieanne.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Well, thank you. And
thank you very much.
This is a I was recording it with World AIDS Day.
Yeah.
So, and that's a massive global wide thing. So thank you for being part of all of this. And it's great to have met you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Pleasure.